Hi there, Jaden here. Welcome to the video. I hope you guys are ready for this one. This video is going to be colorful because I made some art that has the theme for this video, color scheme. I discovered color schemes back in college, and I gotta say, this might be the best thing that I discovered in art. I mean, using so many colors to create something so colorful? Masterpiece. Anyways, for today, I'll be showing you guys 6 colorful artworks. But before I do that, I feel like I should explain what color schemes I use and what each of them is about. So, welcome to Art 101. We will be on the topic of color scheme. If you guys don't know what that is, well, I'm here explaining it to you. A color scheme is a combination of 2 or more colors that can create a visual of something that you see or what you think you see, but also create a balance in a certain artwork. The following color schemes of what I use are as followed. Monochromatic. Monochromatic is when you use a singular color that you want to use alongside using tints, shades, and possibly tones. I'm here to explain those two. Tints is when you make a color lighter, like for example if you use blue, then you want to make the blue lighter. It's like sort of a way to create lighter hues to create lighting. Shades, it's like the opposite. It's when you make the color darker. You know, like if I use blue, then I want to make it darker. It's like a way to create, you know, some sort of shading and possibly the shadow. Tones is like a mixture between the two, where the color can like turn into some sort of grayish color. You can use white to create the tints and possibly the tones. But for shades, now this is just me saying this, you can use either black or any other color to create a darker color. That's up to you if you want to get creative. Complementary. Complementary is the next one, where you use 2 colors that are exactly opposite of each other on the color wheel. For example, if I use blue, then the opposite side of blue is orange. It's complementary. You could determine like which color can be your light color and your other color can be your dark. Split complementary. Split complementary is light complementary. However, rather than picking the color that is exactly opposite to the color you are choosing, you will have to use the 2 colors that are next to the colors opposite. For example, if I use, well, blue of course, instead of using orange, I would use the colors that are next to it. Orange yellow and red orange. To determine what colors you can use for this color scheme, just use a thin triangle on the wheel. In my opinion, possibly the most difficult color scheme I've used. Analogous. Analogous is a fun one. It's a color scheme where you use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Like for example, if I use yellow and I want to use red orange, I'll use all the colors that are between yellow and red orange. Then I would depict like what color would be my light and what color would be my dark. You can use like 3 to 5 colors for this scheme, so if you want to be more expressive and colorful, that's up to you. Tetradic. Tetradic is quite a challenge because it's a color scheme where you use 4 colors. But not only that, but you will have to use 4 of the colors that are evenly spaced out on the color wheel. They can either form, well, either a rectangle or a square. You can pick whatever color you want as long as they are like evenly spaced out on the color wheel that can form either 2 of these shapes. The last one, triadic. Triadic is like tetradic, but instead you use 3 colors that are evenly spaced out on the color wheel. Think of it as like a triangle. Like for example, you can use like all primary colors or secondary colors. Heck, even I can't say this word. Tertiary colors? Did I say that right? As long as they can form a triangle on the wheel. That's up to you. Not a thin triangle, but a normal triangle. Whew, okay. Now that you have listened to my crappy teachings on all the 6 color schemes, I do have one more thing to say. Rather than using a random color wheel on Google, I use the color wheel on the app that I always draw on, Ibis Paint. It might sound possible, and believe me, it was. But I think it might be more of a challenge and more fun for me. Now, with that out of the way, I think it's time I show you guys my colorful artworks. And I will say, I love how they came out. I hope you guys like it. Now let's get started. Let's start off on what I think might be the easiest color scheme. monochromatic. For this one, I went and picked my favorite color. It's blue. It's blue. I used blue for this one. And I used it as my main color for this first piece. First off, normally I would try to find prompts by setting up emojis, but I thought why not I try to make my own. So for this first piece, the first thing that came to my mind were snacks. So I went with that. What you see here is, well, myself and my slime companion, Goob, enjoying a bag of potato chips for a snack. Almost like me and Goob are having a conversation. I don't know what the topic is, but let's just say how good the chips are. Anyways, I did portray me and Goob having a good time. You can see the chip that Goob is eating. It's almost like he's smiling. I will say the line work was not hard, and even not the color. It's almost like I was working on Huevember again, because when I was coloring myself, it almost felt like it was a piece of cake. I like cake. Anyways, I gotta say, I think that the month challenge really paid off. But I did have a little hard time giving the light colors. If you see, it's almost like Goob and the chip he has almost looks like they have the same color. But I did try my best to give the chip a little light color. I guess I was trying to avoid white and black. I wanted to make sure the whole canvas to have blue, even if it's like lighter or darker. Now for the background, I didn't want it to be like a plain blue background. I thought of making like a blue stripe wallpaper. It just feels nice, right? I think so. I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't leave anything blank. Oh, and heads up, for the rest of the drawings, they'll be having random pattern wallpapers. And I will say, this monochromatic art piece turned out nice. The next color scheme is complementary. I had mixed feelings on what colors to pick. I would try to use cyan and red, but I want to avoid using the same colors, since cyan is basically blue. So for the colors, I thought I tried picking green, which would be my light color, and the opposite color on the Iris paint wheel, which is, well, magenta, as my dark color. So I went and picked these two colors. Oh boy. Alright, so at first my drawing was going to be me showing one of my OCs to you guys, but then I had second thoughts. So for this one is, well, me, but this time flexing by a mirror with my new outfit. For those who haven't seen it, it's like my classical jacket, but with pants that have my name on one side, and with shoes. Yeah, I made this outfit back in 2022, and it has been a while since I drew this outfit, especially when it came to the shoes, so you're gonna see me adjust them a couple of times until I got them right. Well, until I think I got them right. Yeah, keyword, think. So that was the hard part for me. I'm still rusty on drawing my outfit regardless. The second hardest part for me would be the reflection. You know, of the reflection of myself in the mirror. I never drew myself or something being reflected by a mirror, so I guess that's a first for me. I did try to show at least a transparent color with the shine, you know, the brightness of the glass in the mirror. I did mix the colors a little bit, like when it came to my outfit. I thought it looked nice than just using a singular color on myself. I was trying to make it look colorful as I could. For the background, instead of making a striped wallpaper, I just drew some scribbly green lines that look wavy, question mark? I don't know. I then added some circles. I used to make a pattern like this in the past, so I thought why not add it again? Also, I like circles. Oh, and rather than just myself in the drawing, I thought of adding Goob. You could see him looking confused on what I'm doing by the mirror. I was trying to fill up the canvas as I could, to be honest. So far, I really like how this piece turned out. Green and magenta might not be my strong colors, but it is nice to try them and test my creativity when it comes to these certain colors. Yeah. Now that I have done complementary, let's move on to another complementary. I'm talking about split complementary, which in my opinion might be a complicated color scheme for me to use. I did have trouble picking what colors to use. I even made a thin triangle to see what colors I wanted it to use. Why am I repeating these words? All I'm saying is I had a hard time choosing colors. However, after rotating the thin triangle a couple times, I finally made a decision of using cyan, and the colors that are next to red, orange, and magenta. Oh boy. Not only picking these colors were difficult, but drawing the piece is a whole nother level. For this one, I thought of drawing me and Goob relaxing on the couch. However, I thought it'd be more funnier that we sat the couch upside down. Both me and Goob. It's like a way of showing that we're bonding, but also bored at the same time. I had the base sketches down, but before I drew the characters for this piece, I focused on the room first. Like the furniture, the couch, the TV, the rug, yeah. But gotta say, it's been a while since I drew a couch, but I think I did a good job on that. After sketching the furniture, I then drew the characters. Also, I will say, I had to struggle drawing me, especially when it came to drawing someone upside down. Usually I would draw my hair that covers part of my eyes, but I drew them touching the ground instead, because well, I'm upside down, and you could also see my forehead. Now for the rest of my body, I try my best to give a proportion around my chest and my arms. Note to self, work better on body proportions. Oh, and Goob was not that hard to draw upside down. He's just vibing. After I got the sketch and the line down, I was gonna get the coloring immediately. I wanted to see what colors that would go well for each and one of these things. You're gonna see flashes of colors in a second. Now, I focused back on the furniture again for the coloring, because why not? I tried getting a little colorful when shading and lighting each and every piece. I used magenta as like my shade and cyan as my tint, but mostly on the couch and the rug. I planned on making the characters like bluish color, but then I changed it to like a magentish color. Also again, I made a random pattern background. A diagonal striped wall with a big and small light orange sphere? Maybe bubbles? I don't know. I was inspired by the Sonic 1 special stages where you get the Chaos Emerald. Now, for some extra effect, I did try my best to show some glow around the TV, as well as some shade lighting and shading that is reflecting from it, to determine that both me and Goob are watching TV. Sometime at night? Maybe? I don't know. Even though this scheme was maybe a challenge for me, but I'm really glad how this color piece turned out. Alright, with split complementary out of the way, let's move on with possibly my favorite color scheme so far. Analogous. I might have trouble saying the word, but meh. Anyways, I thought I'd go for an easy route this time. The colors that I picked are the colors through yellow and red. Like yellow, yellow orange, 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 and red. I went with those. Okay, so for this piece, the idea was supposed to be me and Goob painting on a still life of a small mannequin. But then again, I changed the idea. Now it's me painting Goob, while Goob himself is making a pose for me. A quick note, when it comes to my Sona, I always draw myself doing some art. I was going to do some drawing art pieces for this artwork, but I wanted to try something new, because I want to not only test my skills on characters, but also on the setting. Speaking of that, once again I worked on the background, provided some furniture, an easel, paints, you know, all that. I did have trouble when it came to my Sona holding the paintbrush and the palette, since, you know, drawing hand-wise. The paint that I use in this art is acrylic, because I like acrylic. And you can't paint without making a little mess, right? Especially when you have paint stains all over your body and some parts on your clothing. I thought it'd be a nice touch to show who is the artist in this piece. Also, one thing later, you'll see me smudge colors like on the rack and the palette, that the colors have been like smudged together like a couple of times. For the background, I was going for a curving line with a red circle on each side, but it seemed weird to me. So I made some random scribbly lines instead. On the painting, I didn't want to copy and paste all Goob's layers and the angle on the canvas, so instead I, for the first time, did lineless art. Yay! Again, I want to try to get creative for these pieces. And of course, the painting doesn't look like the same pose that Scoop is doing right now. But hey, as a wise man said, there are no mistakes, just happy little accident. And oh, one more thing, I tinted some parts in the art, like mostly my skin and Goob. I feel like some colors are the same, so I try to make them a bit lighter so they can stand out. But I am glad how this piece turned out. Again, my favorite color scheme. Remember when I said that split complementary was a challenge for me? Well, for this color scheme, it felt more complicated. Tetradic, a color scheme where you have to use 4 colors that are evenly split on a color wheel. 4? 4? Well, I can't complain. I used like 5 colors on Analogous. But still, I had trouble deciding what colors to use. And that can either form a square or a rectangle. Since I was mostly learning with the rectangle strategy, I went with that. After creating a rectangle and rotating the color wheel multiple times, I finally made a decision on using the following colors: blue, orange, green, and purple. Some colors I'm used to, but the rest, quite a challenge in my opinion. So the idea for this piece has, you already know, it's me and Goob. For this one, it's me and Goob in a room and they are writing down some ideas. However, since I like to come up with ideas, I thought it'd be funny to have a long list. That it'd be too long that it covers the floor in the background. You could see here that I am talking to Goob confidently, while Goob looks at the really long list and looks confused. Anyways, for the background, rather than having a blank wall, I added a door. Yep, a door. Just thought it'd be nice. I was going to add my desk that was going to be in front of the characters, but you'll see me remove it later. The colors I picked for this one are mostly colors that are opposite to each other on the color wheel. Green is the opposite of purple, and blue is the opposite of orange. So I paired the colors into teams of 2. Blue and orange were to be used for the characters and objects, while green and purple were to be used for the furniture and the background. I feel like I overdid it with the paper, but I still think it's funny to have a long list. For the wallpaper, I just made some random stripes and added some colorful circles. What can I say, I just like to make something random until it looks nice. Now for the carpet, instead of being like blank, I did want to get a little creative. I made the carpet purple with green stripes at the end, but you can't see it because of the list. But you can see the squiggly orange lines. I thought it had a nice touch to it. I still can't believe I managed to create something so colorful, despite using 4 colors. But hey, that's what artists do, you know? Using more than one color to get colorful. It's a way to get creative, you know? Also, this piece reminds me of candy. I guess it's a way I put the colors in, or maybe I want candy. Let's say both. Alright, now that we have done tetradic, let's go and work on the final scheme, triadic. For this last piece, I thought I'd go with a somewhat use of primary colors. But since this is an ibis paint color wheel, I use similar colors: cyan, yellow, and magenta. It's close to primary colors, and they are evenly spaced out and can form a triangle on the wheel. So let's agree to disagree. This one's gonna be cool. The reason I said that because I wanted to end this off in a cool way. So for this one, me and Goob both wearing sunglasses, and we both give a nice smile. Well, only Jaden does, because Goob doesn't have a mouth. But instead, Goob uses his antenna and gives a cute thumbs up with his cool shades to show his coolness. Color-wise, mostly I just went and determined what colors are my dark and what were my lights. I did mix the colors a bit from my Sona. I mostly use magenta and yellow for me, like how I did in complementary. But later on, I changed some of the parts to blue, just on my jacket and on my sunglasses. I wanted to make sure that I didn't use 2 colors on me. However, I did use blue as my shading, and for yellow for my lighting. Once again, I was trying to get creative with this color. For the background, they are not in a room. No, they're just posing. However, for the background, I just made some random patterns. But hear me out, hear me out. I took the inspiration of those background arts that you see in Sonic Mania. So I tried my best to make somewhat similar of that. Just made some random lines, some spikes, circles, and more lines but it's a very colorful background. Now, with that out of the way, I want to finish the piece with some dialogue. So I added a talk bubble and some text on what Jaden is going to say. He's going to say cool and colorful. Because, you know, because the whole video is like colorful and stuff like that. But I did change the font a little bit. I changed the font on the word colorful to have like a bubbly like font, while the rest of the text, cool and the font stays the same. I'm pretty sure I said this a couple of times, but I'll say it again. I liked how this piece turned out, and it does look very cool and very colorful. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. Now, I gotta say, it was really nice to use these color schemes again. Discovering this back in college makes me wonder what other art elements there are. Yes, I am an artist, but I'm still new to this kind of stuff. Maybe. But can you blame me though? I'm just an artist that just draws. I don't focus on, like, this kind of stuff. Anyways, I love how these drawings turned out. Some of them were hard, like based on the color scheme and what colors I had to choose. It was also complicated when coming up with the design of each of these drawings. If I were to rank these by difficulty, like for drawing and coloring them, I would say tetradic, analogous, split complementary, complementary, triadic, and monochromatic. But hey, I did give my best shot on these color schemes, as well as the chosen colors that I used. Even when it came to like shading, lighting, angles, settings, characters, it is nice to try this kind of stuff. We all experience it, and we go through this type of experience. And yes, it may be difficult to experience this kind of stuff, but at the end, you can say that you felt creative, and you can just look back to it and said, man, I can't believe I've done this. And you feel proud of it. But hey, that's just me saying this. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to see more of my stuff in the near future, feel free to hit these buttons below for more content. Thank you guys again, and I hope to see you all next time. That's all. Ciao!